Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor.
There is nothing more satisfying than watching a corrupt cop get held accountable, especially by an honest judge. Just like in this case where a lying officer was exposed and humbled right in the courtroom.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to null process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
This action visibly angered the judge, and he would not stop here as he went on to grant more favors to the defendant.
This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they... You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
You don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the
granting
other
the
charge?
JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, the JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? No.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
The judge not only reversed his decision, but acquitted the defendant on the spot, leaving the arresting officer and his attorney in dismay. Well, sometimes police officers do the unthinkable in courtrooms, costing their cities thousands of dollars. In a September 2012 hearing of an assault case, Judge Doris Bird laid out punishment for an assault like Anthony Waller when a police officer decided to take matters into his own hands.
Investigation for false imprisonment, assault in the third degree, assault as a class 2 felony, and a misdemeanor charge as well in possession of drug paraphernalia.
I'd like to object first. If I'm under investigation, I thought the investigation came first, and then the rest came. Hold on, man.
Get on your feet. You don't turn on me. Get on your feet.
Waller was only talking to the judge when Deputy Brady Lovengier slammed him to the ground before taking him away. The suspect later claimed that he suffered broken teeth and head wounds. As a result, the deputy was suspended by the sheriff's office and ultimately resigned. On the other hand, Mr. Waller ended up getting $50,000 in damages from a federal jury. This officer lost his job for this. But what happened to this next bully in court will leave you all satisfied.
5 individuals claimed that this defendant tased them when they were not consenting to it, when they were not looking.
January 2023, Behar County Deputy Andrew Garcia was arrested for using his taser on cadets in training. Garcia was charged with 2 counts of official oppression, assault with bodily injury, and harassment. He pled guilty to the charges as Judge Boyd proceeded with the case.
You entered a plea to account for tampering with the government record. You entered a plea of guilty. The state waives counts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. According to the plea bargaining agreement, punishment is to be assessed at 1 year in the state jail facility. The state recommends community supervision. They're opposing your application for deferred adjudication. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report state?
Yes, Judge. Yeah.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, I've gone over my client and given him a chance to read it at his own pace.
It was Deputy Chavez.
No. Not in training, because you were not tasing people in training. I know that sometimes, and I don't know if it's still the case, I think it's not the case, they would tase officers in training so they would know this is the voltage of the taser, this is how it feels.
The state attorney explained what Deputy Garcia had actually done. The revelations will surely leave you in shock and dismay.
Yes, Judge. So This defendant took advantage of people who he was supposed to be supervising and training in the Bexar County Jail. He was the CERT deputy in charge of cadets and lockdown units with violent offenders, people with ag assaults, murder charges pending. At least 5 individuals claimed that this defendant tased them when they were not consenting to it, when they were not looking, and that he did it in front of inmates, which, jeopardizes the security of the jail and also does not help with the retention issues that the jail is having as well. At least 2 of the victims left after that they were tased because they didn't want to be part of that work environment. Some of them were tased on the arms, legs, back, stomach. Multiple people said they did not want to be tased. He did it anyways. There's evidence that after he tased them and that the victims would ask him, "Why'd you do that?" He would look at them and smile. Some of the people consented to being tased. However, it was under a type of duress. For example, one of the victims went to him asking for clippers so that they could cut the inmate's hair in another unit. And he said, "I'll give them to you if you let me tase you."
It's bizarre to hear that a law enforcement officer was being a straight-up bully and was harassing his juniors who were there for training. However, the events keep on getting worse.
In the PSI, I noticed that he said that he had been tased before. There's evidence that was uncovered throughout the investigation that he would, when the victims would say, "Hey man, why'd you do that to me? Have you ever been tased?" He would respond back with, "No, and I'm not going to let anyone tase me." I don't know which part of that is actually true. Judge, I just want to make it very clear that when these reports come out and when all this stuff is happening, they don't say Andrew Garcia was tasing people in the jail. They say a Bexar County Sheriff's deputy was tasing people. He's besmirched the badge of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. This is supposed to be a controlled environment, and he added chaos to an already chaotic environment. By doing this in front of the inmates, it put not only him in jeopardy and the cadets, but also the other inmates. And it is his sole job in the jail to maintain the health and safety of the inmates who are there. When he was confronted about it, he put on a government record that he does not recall this ever happening. However, in the PSI, he says the reason he did it is because it was done to him. The old saying, if all your friends jump off of a bridge, are you going to do it too? And here it seems like he just went along with it and was tasing all these cadets.
The poor cadet who was multiple times spoke to investigators, or else this unlawful practice might have continued even longer.
The defendant is 6'10", 245 pounds, at least at the time when he was working there. One of the victims is 5'2" and 112 pounds. And he reported that he was held up against the wall physically, and that this defendant would not set him down, that he would put him into an arm bar in front of other inmates and tase him multiple times in front of other inmates. This was not a one-off time, Judge. If it was, I don't think the state would be having such an issue with deferred. It's the fact that we found out that this happened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals. And the one individual he didn't tase, he would harass. So when he would go to start doing his checks on the inmates, this defendant would point the red dot at him, come up behind him and clack the taser while the cadet was just trying to do his job. Therefore, the state thinks that this defendant should carry a conviction because of the egregiousness and because he has besmirched the badge of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
Defense.
It seemed the bully enjoyed harassing and attacking those innocent young cadets. Shortly after, his attorney had the floor, and the corrupt deputy tried his best to play the victim card.
What you're accused of by tasing and harassing these cadets is not a proper work environment or training environment for them?
100%.
Okay. Have you learned from this not to do something like that?
100%, yes.
Okay. Were you ever tased? Yes or no?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And is it part of training that everybody's going to get tased sooner or later? Is there normally a time when they get tased?
At a time and a place, yes.
Okay. And did you notice anything from the inmates reacting to your alleged misconduct?
I'm saying I do not recall tasing in front of inmates.
Okay. All right. So, and this is your first offense,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Okay. Excuse me. Norma.
This is a first-time offender. I do understand what I did was, wrong. I would not do it again. It's a mistake. I'm about to get married here in the next couple of weeks. I asked for, if you could on deferred, I would greatly appreciate it. I have done my lesson, Your Honor. And I would never ever do anything like this again.
Any questions?
Any questions from the state?
Just a few questions. So your attorney asked you, you know that that's not a proper work environment, stuff to do in the work environment, correct?
Yes.
But you understand this is more than just some type of workplace harassment, that was criminal conduct you were doing,
Yes.
where you were housing people who have allegedly committed crimes.
Correct.
So in fact, you were committing crimes in the jail.
Correct.
No further questions, Judge.
Nothing else, John.
All right.
After the defense and state presented their arguments, Judge Boyd took charge and announced the sentence. But before that, she took this bully to the cleaners.
We are actually going to marriage license to pick up the proper documents, and then whenever I guess they have their scheduling, we'll pick a day, but as soon as possible.
All right. The state is asking for you to have a conviction. If this were counts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, I would probably have no question about giving you a conviction. But however, you do need to be punished. And punished is not just permanent surrender of your TCO license. So I'm going to give you a choice. I will give you 4 years deferred adjudication. With that, you're going into custody to the Bexar County Jail for 30 days. That's your punishment. Or I will give you a conviction. Which do you choose?
And the conviction, are you just giving regular probation? Is that what you're saying,
Yes.
Your Honor?
Deputy Garcia was a lying coward. The only reason he didn't want to go to the same jail he worked at was because he couldn't face the cadets he was bullying for fun.
Only one that works with my family. My wife is focusing on her degree, and it's. I don't want to be in jail, Your Honor.
Well, the people you tased, they just wanted to, I'm assuming they were there to support their families as well. So why were you tasing people? And I don't want to hear, because how old are you?
24.
24. I don't want to hear this is like college and people are hazing people. I never understood why people who had been hazed decide to haze other people. So why were you tasing people at the jail who are just there? And I know those cadets are young because I've seen some of them. They're 18. Some of them look as though they're 12. So why were you tasing cadets?
Your Honor, doesn't make it right. It's a thing that's going around.
Oh, you're saying there are other cadets there are other people at the name.
Deputy Garcia tried to cover up by claiming it was a long-standing practice. The judge cut him off and went over to humble him for the next few minutes, leaving him speechless.
Who are tasing people at the jail.
Off the top of my head, Your Honor, it's been a while. I don't.
No, I'm thinking, who tased you? Give me a name. I'm sure the state would like to know these names. So who are the names of the people who were tasing you?
Your Honor, I do not remember.
Of course, you always remember the first person who tased you.
The first person who tased me was in proper training.
Oh, what's their name?
That was.
All of the complainants in this case remember you as tasing them. That's why you're here. So who tased you?
In proper training, it was Deputy Chavez.
No. Not in training, because you were not tasing people in training. I know that sometimes, and I don't know if it's still the case, I think it's not the case, they would tase officers in training so they would know this is the voltage of the taser, this is how it feels. Much like in the military, when they release the gas, so you'll know how to wear your mask properly. No, I'm talking about who tased you improperly, because that's why we're here. You're saying people hazed you, so you're just hazing people. So who are these people who tased you when you were not in training?
Your Honor, I do not remember names.
All right, so who else is tasing people at the jail?
Garcia tried to dodge the question, but didn't realize he was up against a brilliant judge who wouldn't let him off so easily.
Because that's what you're telling people. You're telling me, you're telling the states, you're telling the attorney that there's tasing happening at the jail. I'm sure those cadets don't want to be tased if it's not in training. So who are these other people who are tasing cadets? We want to know. So tell me who they are. Do you need to sit in the box while you think of the names of the people?
Mr. Randall.
The reason why are you not intentionally not remembering names, correct?
No, I cannot remember.
Oh, I mean, if you want to sit in the box and think about the names, because you can't just throw around people are being tased at the jail by other people and then that's it. Who are these people who are tasing people? There's nothing worse. Well, there may be other things that are worse than people who say, well, I heard. But you're not saying I heard.
Yes, ma'am.
You're saying, oh, now you're changing it to I heard?
I haven't seen someone get tased. I've heard of stories of people getting tased, and I just ran with that.
Oh, so he's never seen anybody tased. So now he's not just continuing the hazing that happened to him. He was just tasing people. Your unborn child, is this going to be a girl or a boy?
He's born 4 months old. He's a boy, yes, ma'am.
The deputy continued making a joke of himself, left with no answers. The pathetic bully never considered his actions wrong, and the judge kept pressing on his vague excuses.
He's born 4 months old. He's a boy, yes, ma'am.
4 months old. So what if he decides to be a cadet at the jail and somebody like you, who's 6'10", however much you weigh, is tasing him?
I would be unhappy with that.
Mm-hmm. How unhappy would you be?
Very unhappy. Very unhappy.
And how would you think the work environment would be for your son when they're constantly worried about some guy who's bigger than them tase them?
As a parent, I would not approve of that work environment, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. That's what you did. Some people would call it being a bully, but that's what you did.
Yes, ma'am.
So you deserve a conviction, and I'm going to give you a conviction. Is there anything else from either party? In the state jail facility, suspended and probated for 4 years. Proof of employment within 30 days. There's to be no employment as a home health care provider or with minors. Regular reporting. Oh, and if I haven't said it before, I'm finding you guilty. There's to be regular reporting by Zoom or in person. There's to be regular UAs. There's to be the permanent surrender of your TCOL license. And I know sometimes people will give up their TCOL license, but then they go to another state and they're allowed to become officers again. So while you're on this probation, there's to be no employment as a security officer.
In my opinion, the deputy was lucky not to get a jail sentence. His punishment felt like a slap on the wrist, but the judge made sure to humble him one last time.
Court is not waiving any of those hours, and I'm going to require parenting classes. Probation, is there anything else? Is there anything else you need from the court to be successful?
Want the judge give you anything, help you at all? This is your time to ask.
Sir, is there anything else you need from the court to be successful on this probation?
No, no.
All right. I'm showing you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it, and did you sign it? All right, we can go off the record. I understand why you don't want to do your time at the Bexar County Jail. And you know what? I know it has to do with people in the box and security for you at the Bexar County Jail. So that heavy beating of your heart, that's the heavy beating that all of those cadets had whenever you were on shift. And you need to remember that. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right, good luck to you. Yes.
I apologize. You want field visits?
Yes, field visits once a month for 3 months. All right, just have a seat. They'll go over conditions with you. With your attorney, did you understand it, and did you sign it? All right, we can go off the record. I understand why you don't want to do your time at the Bexar County Jail. And you know what? I know it has to do with people in the box and security for you at the Bexar County Jail. So that heavy beating of your heart, that's the heavy beating that all of those cadets had whenever you were on shift. And you need to remember that. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right, good luck to you. Yes.
I apologize. You want field visits?
Yes.
Garcia was immediately fired from the Behar County Sheriff's Office, and although he wasn't arrested, he will never get to be a law enforcement officer again, thanks to Judge Boyd. Well, this isn't the last time a judge destroyed an officer in court, as this case will leave you stunned.
At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up nigga. LOL. How humiliating and degrading. Be a positive example to Officer Zeleniewski.
On January 28, 2015, Inkster police officer William Mendez and his partner John pulled over a black man for a traffic violation. What followed will shock you as Judge Vonda Evans details the incident during the trial.
I'm going to start out with Mr. Dent. The victim involved in this tragedy is a 58-year-old black man who was driving his Cadillac in Inkster, a suburb of Detroit. On the evening of January 28, 2015, where his life changed forever, he was stopped by the defendant, a then Inkster police officer, and his partner, Officer Zeleniewski. Mr. Dent was stopped for a minor traffic offense and ordered out of his vehicle. With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head by the defendant. In his attempt to arrest him, he was thrown onto a window shield of a patrol car, bleeding profusely from a head injury. The responding police officers arrived as the defendant is wrestling the defendant to the ground. Mr. Dent was struck, kicked, and tased while on the ground by what appeared to be a group of angry, anxious police officers that celebrated after the defendant was beaten and cuffed.
This horrible beating had left Dent's face and shirt drenched in blood, but the officer's reaction to this was even worse.
The video in the car shows the police officers fist bumping as a celebratory act of bravery by the defendant and his cohorts. But the one image that struck out to the court was looking at Mr. Dent in his cell, shaking his head. In disbelief of what had occurred to him. If his conduct was indicative of what he was thinking, I would have thought this. What crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking at. As police officer John Zeleniewski, auxiliary police officer, testified in court too, in his response to a text, was quoted as saying, "At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up right now. LOL. How humiliating and degrading that must have been."
After his arrest, the officers kept on humiliating, cleaned his blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. Dent was also charged with resisting arrest and drug. The judge was devastated by the events and delivered a powerful, heartfelt lecture.
He was left in a cell for a number of hours before getting medical treatment. But after hearing the defendant and his fellow officers joke about his injuries as they were wiping blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. 2015. Please be quiet in my courtroom. How does this happen? I'm gonna tell you how it happened. Some years ago, 19 to be, well, 25 to be exact, I remember coming into this building with such enthusiasm, so excited. And I remember a lawyer telling me that nobody leaves out of this building like they came in. I didn't understand what that meant. You go to social events, you tell people what you do for a living, and after they say, what kind of cases do you hear? And as a judge, prosecution, defense, does criminal defense, a police officer, after a while they say, we don't want to know anymore. That's the job in the criminal justice system.
Racist Officer William could only sit and listen as the judge spoke. How fitting that he was being humbled by an African-American woman.
These pressures and expectations force officers who have a pure desire to purely serve the community as an occupation to conform to this group mentally or face being ostracized and labeled as an outcast among that group. These methods of indoctrination are passed along to new police recruits in the academy by stressing the importance of obedience to authority through a structure of shame and honor. It teaches them to conform and obey to the prevailing standards of the police culture. Field training, the recruit gets a reality check of what it's like to be out in the city. I was out at a mall yesterday. I asked a woman a question. I said, you don't have to answer. How much do you get paid an hour? She said, $15 with benefits. Well, guess what? That's more than what Inkster gets. They don't get benefits. The equipment, the police cars are old. We went out to the scene. Early in the morning, there were people who were using drugs. They just kind of came out. And the only thing I could imagine was the only thing that is separating these people from drugs are the police officers that appeared in my court.
Judge Vonda not only blasted the officer in question, but also questioned the overall system that produces such cops. On the other hand, all charges against Dent were dropped, and he settled with the city for $1.4 million.
According to Law Enforcement Today, a publication, police officers had the highest rate of alcoholism, divorce, drug abuse, suicide. Their life expectancy is 10 years less than the average American. Police are human beings too. They feel despair and they have ups and downs. Their job is made worse because they see on a daily basis, more than any other occupation, the worst behavior that people can inflict on one another. They go to work every day with the knowledge that some of the people that they are sworn to protect and serve want to kill them. But how do we as a community expect superior services from police officers who are making security guard salaries to receiving little compensation and struggling just to pay health care? We would rather save a few dollars to balance a budget than pay millions of dollars to reverse a tragedy that we could have prevented. I know that Mr. Dent would give back every dime of his $1 million settlement to go back to where he was in his life before January 28th. I wonder what would one half of that $1.4 million settlement awarded to Mr. Dent have done for the Inkster Police Department. Training officers that wanted to serve and not hiring officers that didn't belong. It's my belief that when we begin to value and properly compensate and train those that want to serve, then and only then will we as a community receive the type of services that we expect and demand from the defenders of our community, the police. It's amazing how poor cities like Flint can find millions of dollars to attempt to reverse a situation that $100 a day could and would have prevented.
And if you thought that was satisfying, wait until you see this next judge absolutely tear into a corrupt officer in court.
Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law.
Corrupt cops often believe they can get away with their abuse of power, thinking their badge will shield them from justice. Today, we will go through the jaw-dropping cases when the very system the cops manipulated turned against them, serving brutal karma right in the courtroom. On June of 2023, the Indiana State Police launched an investigation into Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knoll. They found that he had embezzled more than $5 million in taxpayer money. Now, Sheriff Knoll was instantly relieved of his duties and accused of 25 offenses. This was just the first step toward his downfall as a corrupt cop.
Date of birth?
12/18/70.
And that will make you how old?
52, sir.
And the last 4 digits, your social security number?
Mr. Knoll, Special Prosecutor Hurdle has charged you with 15 counts of criminal conduct. And I'll go through them. Count 1. Corrupt business influence is a level 5 felony. It would indicate that pursuant to Indiana Code 35-44-1.1-2-1, that on or about a period of time from November the 9th, 2018 and August the 16th, 2023 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally through a pattern of racketeering activity acquire or maintain, either directly or indirectly, an interest in or control of property or enterprise contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided. Count 2, theft as a level 5 felony. You then personally sold said Hellcat for $83,000, $83,716. Count 4, theft is a level 6 felony under Indiana Code 35-43-4-2A.
Numerous charges were also brought against Jamie Knoll's daughter, Casey, and his wife, Misty. It is truly remarkable to see how the sheriff was able to engage in such corruption and yet maintained his position in the agency for such a long time.
On or about August the 16th, 2023, in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally alter, damage, or remove any record, document, or thing with the intent to prevent it from being used, produced as evidence in any official proceeding or investigation. That being, you factory reset your phone upon the arrival of the Indiana State Police on your property. You, in your capacity as Clark County Sheriff, a public servant, did knowingly or intentionally assign to Rodney Walker, an employee under your supervision, duties that were not related to the operation of the governmental agency that you serve, that being sheriff. Assigned Walker duties on your personal property, rental properties, father-in-law's property, pole barn, and property of Utica Fire Department. Count 11. And count 15. Official misconduct is a level 6 felony. It would indicate that between November the 9th, 2018 and December the 31st, 2022 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you, a public servant, that being Sheriff of Clark County, knowingly or intentionally committed an offense in the performance of your official duties, that being goes to employment as Sheriff of Clark County relating to Brent Fisher. Mr. Knoll, the first 3 counts are level 5 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment from 1 year to 6 years, with the advisory sentence being 3 years and up to a $10,000 fine. Counts 4 through 15 are all level 6 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment of no time in jail if treated as a misdemeanor to 2.5 years at the Indiana Department of Corrections, with the advisory sentence being 1 year and up to a $10,000 fine. Do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the potential penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
The next question is, usually you intend to hire a lawyer, but you obviously have counsel seated with you. I need to tell you, you have a right to a speedy public trial by jury in this county. You have the right to face all witnesses against you, severe question and cross-examine these witnesses.
Jamie sat through the proceedings with a complete lack of guilt as the judge systematically read out the 15 counts against him during the hearings. The tension was high in the courtroom as the state attorney made a strong case for his detention without bond. Despite the gravity of the charges, the judge decided to grant bail. Little did he know that this would turn out to be a serious mistake.
His passport to you by noon tomorrow, and then you will surrender it to the court by 4 p.m. next Monday, because it's my understanding the court here is closed tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
He will surrender all firearms except one shotgun of his choice to Indiana State Police, be it from the country or, as Mr. Wilder said, Washington County. I keep my shotgun with double lock near me, along with my 45, but I think one shotgun for personal protection is appropriate for him to maintain. He will not leave the state of Indiana without permission of the court, and he'll post $75,000 in cash. Mr. Knoll, you wanted him released without posting any bond, but it's a unique case, and if you don't like my decision, I'm happy for you to appeal it. It won't be the first time you've appealed me, and the Court of Appeals told you I was right, so I'm happy for you to accept that challenge if you so please. I'm not going to have you report in.
After delivering the announcements, the judge made one thing unmistakably clear, leaving no room for confusion or misunderstanding.
You keep one shotgun only. Try to deceive me, you will not like the consequences. Understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then, Judge, the issue of return of all other items, see if we can just take them in another hearing.
Well, it wasn't set for today, so
No,
yeah, we'll deal with that at another time. I assume now that everything's going to be unsealed, there'll be a lot of new things brought before the court that
yes, sir.
we'll address in due time.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing else from us, Judge. Thank you.
All right, we'll be off record. Thank you all.
Although Jamie was first granted bail, however, his freedom was quite short-lived. When he violated the judge's order, police raided his residence in March and found a stash of hidden weapons. When the judge was called back for another court appearance, he was clearly outraged and did not hold back this time, delivering an uncompromising reprimand.
I told Mr. Knoll, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences. Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law. I find that you are in contempt of this court. Take him into custody. No, that's enough. I'll find you guys in contempt for disrupting the proceedings, and you'll be there right there with him.
Ironically, Jamie Knoll's appearance in A&E's 60 Days In, a series that exposes the inner workings of law enforcement, ended up on the wrong side of the court. During sentencing, the judge made an intentional point of mentioning his feature in the series, highlighting the sharp fall from grace of the former sheriff.
Now, what is an appropriate sanction? The question is, I can sentence him up to 180 days without a trial, or I can sentence him to a day, or I can release him. You know what I think the answer is? 60 days in. That's what I think the answer is today. Now, Mr. Wilder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Boyles, I apologize, Mr. Boyles, your lead. Before he is released, I'll take your suggestion. I want an independent individual to scour that household to determine that there's no further weapons. I find that Mr. Ertl's original argument that he was trying to make that I sustained, an officer of the law, every time I go into court, I hear, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know it was there. I really did. You've heard that a million times. You've heard it a million times, and yet you still take them into custody, would be my guess. Every officer in the world has heard, I didn't know it was there, it's my friends. I'm not buying it. It was your burden, it's your responsibility, and today the court will enforce that. Take him away.
Even though Jamie Knoll received a 60-day term, his legal issues are far from over. He is currently facing 31 felony charges, and the outcome of his trial might mean a long jail term. Knoll's once powerful position has collapsed into an abrupt fall from grace, and he may spend years behind bars. Well, you will be shocked to hear what this next former supervisor of Border Patrol was facing charges for.
I received a call of a female down. She was face down, lots of blood. No, she was brutally attacked.
On April 9th, 2018, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, a former supervisor of the Border Patrol, went on trial for the shocking and brutal murders of Griselda Hernandez and their 1-year-old son, Dominic Alexander.
That morning, more or less around 11:30 a.m., I received a call of a female down by Bristol and Riverbank Road, which is located in Mines Road, with lacerations to her head. While en route to that call, my dispatchers informed me that she was possibly deceased.
Okay. And did you proceed to that area?
Yes, sir. Upon arrival, the ambulance, the City of Laredo paramedics, the ambulance was already parked outside. I parked and I walked down to the trail.
Okay, did you come in contact with anybody when you got there?
Yes, while on my way down, 2 paramedics were on the way up, and I asked them more or less, where is everybody? They said, follow the dirt trail and you'll see the body and you see the USBP agents down there.
Okay. Did you come in contact with a BP agent by the name of Dennison?
Yes, sir.
More than 20 witnesses, including family members, law enforcement officers, forensic experts, and close friends. Officer Alberto Cortez Jr. took to the stand to describe the horrifying scene he received about a woman down with lacerations on her head.
This is where BP units were stationed. 4 to 5 United States Border Patrol agents were located here. And a motionless, lifeless female body was about right here. She was facing eastbound. And upon me being a police officer, secure the crime scene, to look for any evidence that includes anything out of the ordinary. As I began to canvass the crime scene, in better words, I was walking around this grassy on the edge. There was one USBP agent, Agent Dennison, already ahead of me. He was already south. I passed the female body. I did look at her. I observed she was barefooted. She was face down. Lots of blood. Can you hear me? Yes, lots of blood around her upper middle torso on the dirt. And continuing my path southbound, I saw blood drops on the dirt. At this time, Agent Dennison said out loud, I found another body.
Okay, stop right there.
Okay.
The incident occurred not far from Father McNaboe Park's walking paths off Bristol Road and close to the banks of the Rio Grande. Officer Cortez Jr. described the grim scenes when he discovered the body of the woman lying barefoot and covered in blood.
Is this the type of blood that you saw?
That is correct, sir.
You also said that there was, and you didn't walk on the, where were you walking? Let me ask you that, Dutch.
On the grass, where the grass and the dirt meet, right on that.
So you stayed on the
boundary.
edge of the
Yes.
path. You did not disturb the dirt path?
No, sir.
Were you the first officer that arrived?
Yes, that is correct.
You were the first official Laredo police officer to arrive?
Yes.
And this location falls within your jurisdiction?
No. Each officer is assigned a certain area. I got dispatched to be there.
No, but what I'm saying, that's within the city limits?
Oh, yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, so this is within the city limits?
Yes.
What county is this?
Webb County.
So the body's in the city of Laredo and Webb County?
Yes.
Cortez recalled getting an urgent call from another officer at the scene shortly after he ensured that the scene remained uncontaminated. To his shock, the officer had discovered something completely horrifying, intensifying the gravity of the situation.
What was your impression of what had happened?
Any prudent person will see a lifeless, motionless body to come to the conclusion that she was deceased.
But at that time, the opinion as to how she was deceased based on what you're seeing, what you're assessing, are you making an assessment?
No, she was brutally attacked.
You also testified that he said that there was a body.
That is correct.
Okay. What happens at that point? Or what do you do at that point?
At that point, he was ahead of me, southbound. When I heard him say, "I found another body," I walked towards his direction, to his location. He was no longer on the dirt path. He was in the brush. And when I arrived there at the brush with Agent Dennison, I observed a motionless little boy as well.
Officer Dennison discovered another body of a motionless little boy, who was later identified as Dominic. The officer described the heart-wrenching scene as he saw the lifeless body of a 1-year-old lying on the ground.
What you saw?
Of course. Little brown booties, little brown boy booties, blue jeans that were covered in blood, freshly haircut, and what caught more of my attention was the way the body was positioned. He was placed. He wasn't thrown. He was placed. It's as if someone had placed him down.
Did you see any injuries to the baby?
Yes, lots of blood around the neck area, and that came down. I said again, blood on the blue jeans as well.
Okay. And you recognize this?
Yes, now I remember. T-shirt. Yes, sir.
Did you see any other injuries on the baby? How close were you to the baby?
Standing right over the body.
How many injuries did you observe on the baby at that time?
I only observed one.
And that was to
the neck area.
The clothes worn by Dominic were presented to Cortez, who immediately recognized them as the same ones he was wearing the day of the terrible tragedy. It is truly heartbreaking to watch the realization weighing on the officer while the father of the baby doesn't get fazed.
Agent Dennison was in front of you this whole time?
Yes, he was with me, yes, sir.
And you were with him when the shoe was found?
Yes, sir.
And what communication came over the radio that morning?
It was broadcasted, possible suspect, Burgos. That was broadcasted over my P unit, portable unit.
What was your reaction at that time? But when you heard Burgos, what did that mean? Did it mean anything to you at all?
No, sir.
Did Dennison?
Dennison was in close proximity where he could hear the broadcast on my radio.
You have your radio.
Yes, sir.
The name Burgos comes out.
Yes, sir.
It means nothing to you.
No, sir.
Do you see a physical change in Agent Dennison?
Yes, sir.
To you, what do you see this physical change?
He was in shock.
Cortez also told the authorities that when he heard the conversation about Burgos being named as a suspect, Officer Dennison was in the area. His reaction, marked with a concerning familiarity, suggested that he was not shocked by the news, but rather that it felt all too normal in the circumstances they faced.
And you saw Mr. Burgos there at the scene as well?
I saw many of them, yes. But sitting here, I recognize him, yes.
And he appeared to be in shock as well as Agent Dennison, correct?
No.
That was not your impression?
No, sir.
So you're saying that he appeared to be normal to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
The officer disclosed a startling fact about Burgos. He showed no signs of shock or even remorse for what he did after he arrived on the scene. Now, this next case is the perfect example of how these cops abuse their powers.
He told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane, to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
On May 11th, 2017, a police corporal in the Fayette County town of Tyrone approached a parked pickup truck during a routine check. To his surprise, the driver behind the wheel was none other than State Senator Marty Harbin, known for his contentious support of the religious freedom measure from past years.
Our policy, over 30 days of expiration, we have to tow the vehicle.
You serious with me?
Yes, sir.
I'll call it. I won't call Eric Dial, but I'll call the rest of them. But I pay my bills. This will not go over well.
I can tell you, you can talk to everybody at the department. The car's going to be impounded.
The situation got rapidly out of hand, and when he was pulled over by another officer for driving with an expired tag. When he was told that his truck would be towed, he did not comply. The scenario became more intense because of his blatant attempt to use influence.
Because I'm going to take this, and I'm going to the state, and we're going to change the law.
You're not the only one this happens to. So,
yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying,
it's not
the
like
law,
we're picking on you.
The law's wrong in that respect.
Okay.
And I'm not mad at
that's
you.
Why, I mean, we can't change the law. I mean,
well, I can't.
But that's you.
Harbin was shocked to learn that the police officers are able to confiscate cars for anything as little as an expired tag. To modify what he perceived to be an unduly severe punishment for a relatively trivial error, Harbin had introduced a bill aimed at allowing drivers to drive away from expired tag offenses.
It was moving in the fast lane.
Okay. Was there any movement into other lanes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about that.
The vehicle moved from the fast lane to the center lane at one point in time. And then from the center lane to the curb lane and then back to the fast lane. And then eventually exited the freeway, sir.
Okay. So when you were following the vehicle, it moved from the fast lane to the center lane to the curb lane, back to the center lane, back to the slow lane. Did I get that right?
Something like that, yes, sir.
Okay.
That'd be close.
Okay, so the vehicle changed lanes.
The vehicle did change lanes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And then the vehicle exited the freeway.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you remember speaking with me during an interview a little while back?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you gave me honest answers during that interview?
To the best of my recollection, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember me asking you about the vehicle's movement during that interview?
No, sir, I do. I remember you asking the question, but I don't remember the exact particulars, sir.
Okay.
During a tense moment in the courtroom, the officer was asked who had stopped the senator. As the lawyer pressed him, it became clear that the cop's story wasn't holding up.
Do you recall me asking, when you were following the vehicle, did it stay in the same lane the whole time?
I know you asked numerous questions. That may have been one of them, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall your response?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Permission of the court, Your Honor, I would like to play a portion of my interview with Sergeant Pavis where I asked him whether the vehicle, when he was following it, if it stayed the same lane the whole time.
And Mr. Payne, any objection? No, Your Honor. Okay. That portion of the date, Mr.
Again, just going backwards a little bit. Okay. When you were following the pickup truck, did it stay in the same lane the whole time? Yes, it did. Okay.
When we got closer to
Okay. Did you hear that, Sergeant?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. So when I asked you, did the pickup truck stay in the same lane the whole time, your answer was, yes, it did.
That is correct. That is my answer.
The lawyer skillfully exposed the lies in the officer's testimony by playing a video of the cop's previous interview regarding the incident in court.
And just before I played that, when I was asking you about whether the pickup truck stayed in the same lane while you were following it, you told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane, to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
when I was behind the vehicle, I was in the fast lane the whole time. And at some point in time, as I just mentioned to you, he did move from lane to lane, sir.
Okay. So you don't find anything inconsistent with what you told me here in court and what we talked about?
I could see where you would see that as an inconsistency, yes, sir.
Okay.
The officer was left completely speechless as the lawyer skillfully proved him a liar in court. Each pointed question seemed to damage his credibility, and by the end, he had nothing to say in his defense. This next cop was not owned by a lawyer, but by a judge.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is...
46-year-old Lisette Gonzalez was charged with DUI. However, it was discovered during her trial that the arresting officer had not used a breathalyzer test. The judge was outraged by this wrongdoing and instantly reprimanded him.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to null process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge. This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they. You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
So you're granting it because you don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the
granting
other
the JOA in fairness.
charge? In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, the JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
As soon as things were made clear, the charge against Gonzalez was dropped and the cop was taught a lesson that he would never forget. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Today we saw some shocking moments where corrupt cops face the consequences of their actions right in the courtroom. These individuals who were meant to uphold the law instead abused their power, but justice was ultimately served. Corruption within law enforcement is unacceptable, and it is essential that those who commit such acts are held accountable. Now, if you agree that justice must be served, be sure to like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on more cases like these. Also, if you enjoyed this video, check out the next one here.